Good evening. I am Joanne Dunn, the Executive Director of the Youth Shelter Program of Westchester, and welcome to our virtual event, An Evening with Bakari Sellers. This event is live and will be recorded. We are thrilled that you are joining us this evening. This is going to be an inspiring and motivating event. For over 40 years, the youth shelter has been providing alternatives to incarceration for young men ages 16 to 21. Did you hear me? For over 40 years, the youth shelter has been providing alternatives to incarceration for young men ages 16 to 21, and with great success, I must add. But there's so much more that we can do. As the entire nation grapples with criminal justice and police reform, along with tackling the gaps that exist in diversionary programming for young people ages 14 to 17, and also to find loopholes in appropriate programming for young people, ages 18 to 24 that are encountering the justice system. I am excited about the future of the youth shelter. I'm excited about how the youth shelter can continue to play a major role in shaping solutions for these challenges. But we cannot do it alone. Where there are challenges, there are opportunities. And this is where we need your help. Together, we can harness our collective power to transform the lives of justice-involved youth, but more importantly, young people in need of a second chance. Please utilize the chat feature to post any comments, questions, or shout outs. Also in the chat feature, you will find the link to donate, or you can visit the Youth Shelter's website at www.ysow.org. You'll hear more about how you can help later on in the program. But for now, sit back, relax, and get inspired. Now you will watch a video to learn more about the youth shelter, and shortly after that, you will get a welcome from one of our board of directors, Jan Fisher, who is the executive director of Nonprofit Westchester. For over 40 years, the Youth Shelter Program of Westchester has been a community-based providing an invaluable support to at-risk youth with great success. Through early intervention and continued follow-up support, our program continues to transform the lives of young men who are afforded this second chance. The Youth Shelter remains Westchester County's only alternative to incarceration program for youth who are charged within the adult criminal justice system. Treating these young people with specialized age-appropriate programs that provide the supports necessary for them to function as positive, contributing members of society when they return to their communities. Without the youth shelter, young people can quickly become trapped in an adult criminal justice system that was not designed for them, nor was it even equipped to deal with youth in crisis. Our mission is building brighter futures, one saved youth at a time.
Hi, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you here tonight. My name is Jan Fisher, and it is my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Youth Shelter Program of Westchester. This organization, under the incredible leadership of Joanne Dunn, is so close to my heart. I have agreed to serve as a board member because I, like the rest of my colleagues on the board, firmly believe in second chances. I also know that programs like the Youth Shelter can be so effective in addressing the impacts of poverty, neglect, abuse, and systemic racism, while teaching young people to be responsible for their actions and guiding them on the path to productive citizenship. I thank Joanne Dunn, the incredible staff of the Youth Shelter, and most importantly, the young men in the program who are working so hard to improve their lives. And I thank all of you for attending tonight. And it is my pleasure to hand this over to Reverend Darren Morton, who is our board president.
Thank you, Jan, for that introduction. First of all, I'm Reverend Dr. Darren M. Morton. I am the president of the board of directors for the youth shelter, and it has been my pleasure to serve on this board. The youth shelter is extremely important, especially during this climate, this time in which we have bail reform and, of course, raise the age, and so many of our social justice issues around incarceration, particularly as it pertains to our young men and women of color. And so we are ever so grateful to be able to be in this work and to partner with so many of you, and for you to partner with us as we save the lives of our young people, as they all deserve a second chance. And as we lead the way, that there are alternatives. There are alternative ways for young folks to be able to be rehabilitated. There's alternative ways for young folks to know that making a mistake is not the end of their life. And so we are grateful for the work that we do and for all that you are doing. And we're looking forward to what the youth shelter will continue to do under the leadership of our outstanding and phenomenal director, Joanne Dunn. It is also, as you've already heard, that if you need to ask questions or to pose questions, you can do that through the chat feature here tonight. It is my pleasure tonight, as we talk about working with young people and young men, and that they are doing great work and working on themselves while they are at the youth shelter, to introduce a young man, Louis Elmore, who is 19 years old and came to the shelter just a few months ago in July of 2020. In his teenage years, of course, he has dealt with quite a number of very important decisions and unprecedented situations that, of course, have caused him to not make the best decisions in life. But we thank God for the opportunity for a second chance. However, despite these decisions, he recognizes that they have been for the better. They have made him rethink his direction. And he has shown that in the work that he has done and the time that he has spent and the activities at the youth shelter during this short time. He aspires to enter into the field of construction. He loves working in our kitchen. He is actually what they call a resident chef there. And now being mentored by our cook at the facility. And so it was a great pleasure that I now ask that you will welcome and introduce to you as you meet Louis at this time. So Louis, take it away.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. My name is Louis Elmore. I am 19 years old. I've been a resident of the youth shelter program with Westchester since July 2020. In my time at the youth shelter, I learned a great deal about responsibility. Being a responsible person allows me to make better decisions. My outlook has changed because I now take time to think before I react as well, which has become an important part to my development at the shelter. Also, I learned how to grow and develop as a leader. Prior to the youth shelter, I was a follower. Also, I will also note I had many positive experiences at the youth shelter. Most recently, I was able to pick up a new suit and bow tie and flash my $1 million smile, taking professional headshots. I felt great being dressed up and received compliments on how I was dressed. I felt empowered and important thanks to the youth shelter. Thank you for allowing me the time to share my journey with you. Without further ado, I would like to present the Bakari Sellers video. I hope Bakari video is impactful for you as it was for me and my colleagues at the youth shelter. Thank you.
How do we introduce Bakari now?
Bakari Sellers!
CNN political commentator Bakari Sellers.
He hails to us from Morehouse University.
From Denmark, South Carolina, where we have 3 stoplights and a blinking light.
He has a law degree. He is a lawyer by profession.
He was elected to the South Carolina House of Representatives.
Also author of the book, My Vanishing Country.
Thank you so much for being here and just sharing the knowledge. And as I always say, dropping the pearls. And you will really understand who Bakari is today when you really read those first couple of chapters.
Running as a Democrat in a deeply red state, he became the youngest Black elected legislator in the country.
He is a force. And Bakari, you always speak truth. And you do it in a way that is meant to educate.
I had the audacity to dream with my eyes open. I had the audacity to tell my mom and dad that I was going to go out here and try to be a leader in this world. There's a great possibility in what you can be. And I remind folk all the time that there's nothing special about me. I always remind folk I'm not atypical.
This video looks like it can go on.
All of y'all sitting in that room today. I just had the ability to dream with my eyes open. I had the ability to understand that for those who don't have opportunities, I was going to create those opportunities. And it's very difficult to try to change the world by yourself. So here I am, an example telling you that I think that together we can overcome. And I think that together we can dream. And I think that together we can absolutely change this world. And you literally, in the words of the Army, I guess, be all you can be. You can dream with your eyes open and end up standing on the stage from a poor rural town in Denmark, South Carolina, where y'all don't even have clean water, where you had to jump ditches for fun, and you can stand next to Barack Obama. So that's my story, and those are my challenging words for you all today.
Unmute myself. You may have heard me say this video can go on and on. I'm just like so impressed, so inspired, so excited about Bakari Sellers. First of all, I'm Tracy Alexander. You may know me as Dr. T, and the only thing I can tell you is I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the youth shelter. I am a fan of Nick, Andrew, Christian, Fabrice, Jabrock, and Lewis. Lewis, first of all, bravo. I'm giving you applause right now. I am so excited. We are so proud of you. We had an awesome time last week with Bakari, and what we learned how to dream with our eyes wide open. So without further ado, me being one of the biggest fans of the youth shelter, it gives me great pleasure, great delight to hear from the man of the hour. You may know him being the youngest African-American person to be elected in the nation, okay? At 22 years old, Bakari was the youngest person to be elected, an elected official. Now, with that said, what you may not know, the most important thing is he is Cleveland Sellers' boy, also known as Little CL. When we ask him to come, he always shows up. He makes time for us. And a few minutes ago, he was with Wolf Blitzer. Then a few minutes before that, he was on CNN with Gloria Borger, and he is with us right now. And we thank you so much, my friend, Bakari Sellers.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Lewis. That's a dope introduction. I don't know who created that video. I hope my mama did. That's good. We're gonna house that for a little while. Shout out. My hope is that throughout this, I can get Tyrone Brown to sit up and look. Tyrone relaxing, boy. He chilling. Look at him in his Zoom picture. That's the thing about Zoom. You can see absolutely everybody. But I'm so grateful to have all of you all here with me. Joanne, it's a privilege. Dr. Morton, thank you so much. It's so many people. I just want to say thank you to having me here with you today. In the words of the great American poet, Sean Carter, also known as Jay-Z, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be here with us this evening. So thank you so much. And let me just tell you how much this center means to me. This is the busiest time of year every 4 years for someone like me. But the individuals who we are here supporting, the young men we're lifting up, the young men who are not the leaders of tomorrow. Jan, what's up? They're not the leaders of tomorrow. They're the leaders of right now. They're the leaders of today. And so this is one of the most important moments that we can be in. And so I'm going to say a few words, and then we have an opportunity to go into Q&A. And I want to start my remarks by talking about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I think that the young men who heard me speak earlier know that I'm not someone who likes to quote Martin Luther King Jr. I believe his legacy to be whitewashed, and I'm not someone who goes down that path of quoting Dr. King that often. However, I will tell you that in his I Have a Dream speech, which was not his first or second best piece of writing. His first best piece of writing was the letter from the Birmingham jail. His second best piece of writing was a small book entitled Where Do We Go From Here? His third best piece of writing was, of course, then the I Have a Dream speech. But I'm not concerned about the rhythmic cadence of I have a dream that one day we shall. But in that speech, he talked about the fierce urgency of now. And so today I want to talk about this moment that we're in the fierce urgency of now, and how we don't have the luxury or the privilege of waiting until tomorrow. We have to take advantage of the moment that we're in right now. You know, for me, I'm from the big city of Denmark, South Carolina. I don't know how many of you all know where Denmark is, but we have a whole 3 stoplights and a blinking light. And I talk about my city all the time. And I love it because it was what we call God's country. I love it because it's home. I love it because, like many of the young people who we're talking about tonight, have this affinity for a place. For me, it was this place where everyone poured so much into me. For me, it was this affinity because I was a product of the proverb, it took a village to raise a child. And so we're here tonight because we are a part of that proverbial village. And whether or not you want that responsibility or not, we are here. And we're here, and we're a part of that proverbial village during this moment where we have to have that fierce urgency of now. And so these lines begin to connect. And so when I think back, I'm always someone who believes that I'm a child of the movement. And what does that mean? My father and his generation sacrificed so much. My father was a young man who at 10 years old, I oftentimes tell the story at 10 years old, he actually had the picture, and you remember, not you, Tracy, but some of the older people on the call may remember that in 1955, there was a young boy named Emmett Till who was brutally murdered and thrown into a river in Mississippi. And the reason that I say you may remember this is because back then, you know, Lewis, you know, we can go viral today. Like if you throw up something on IG or Snap or Twitter, you can go viral pretty quickly. But back then you could only go viral if you were in Ebony magazine. And in 1955, Mamie Till, she actually allowed her young son, he was brutally murdered, to have his face put on the front of Ebony magazine. And let's think about that for a minute. Here's a young man who allegedly whistled at 13 years old, he allegedly whistled at a white woman. He was brutally lynched and murdered. All the bones beaten in his face and thrown in the bottom of a river in Mississippi. And do you know what his justice was? His justice was the young lady who said that he had whistled at her and his relatives. The jury stayed out less than an hour, found them not guilty, and he became a martyr for the movement. But there was such a spark. And this is what's so amazing about young people, and with all due respect to all the old people on the call, this is what's so amazing about young people, is that every ounce of change we've ever had in this country has been led by young people. Every ounce of change we've ever had. These young people who we're here to celebrate tonight, ain't nobody here to feel sorry for nobody. Ain't nobody here to feel guilty for nobody. We're here to celebrate young people. And to be more specific, we're here to celebrate young men. And to be more specific, we're here to celebrate Black and brown young men. You know, the crazy thing about this is every ounce of change we've ever had has been because of young people in this country who have found some spark. And when I think back to my father's generation and Emmett Till, it led him to go out and lead sit-in marches. And when he was 14, 15 years old, to go to Howard University and befriend a young man named Stokely Carmichael. And I can't say Stokely too loud, because if I do, my son's gonna jump in my lap. My son is named after Stokely. I have twins. I have 22-month-old twins. And right now I want you to know that it's buy one, get one free. So y'all come, you want two children, you get another one. I'll leave them at the front steps. I will wrap them up if you want them, just for one night's sleep. But Stokely is named after his uncle, Stokely Carmichael. And when you think about that, you think about everything they went through. Their first mission was to go to Philadelphia, Mississippi and search for the bodies of Goodman, Schreiner, and Cheney. And so I want my white friends and my other friends and everybody else to understand that allyship has been a part of culture and a part of lifting us up together for so very long, because you know why? We're in this together. My grandma used to say, and y'all all know, Lewis, I don't know if you know this, but you know how some of the people who come around say stuff to you that don't make a whole lot of sense, right? That's the truth, right? Like older people say stuff, then you're like, I don't really know what they're talking about. My grandma used to say, you can't fall off the floor. Now, Lewis, that don't make a whole lot of sense to you, I know. And it just, as a general statement, you can't fall off the floor don't make a whole lot of sense to a lot of folk. But as I begin to get older, and as I begin to live a little bit more, and as I begin to go through these levels of maturation, Lewis, I'll tell you, what I realize is that there are a lot of us who feel like we're on the floor together. And when you can't fall off the floor, you don't have no choice but to get up. And so there are a lot of people in this country, they're Muslim Americans, they're immigrants, there's the LGBTQ community, they're Black men like yourself, they're Black women like Tracy. There's so many of us who feel like we've been just put down. There's a whole Me Too movement, women in the workplace. There's so many of us who feel like we've been knocked down, who feel like we've been punched in the jaw, who feel like we're on the floor. And my only challenge in helping you all understand this is that we have to get up together. We have to have that level of empathy that we do not have today. And so I tell this story of my father, especially in my book. I talk about how he went through this journey and he graduated from Howard with Stokely, and he dropped out of school from Howard, and Stokely graduated from Howard, and how he went to search for Goodman, Schreiner, and Cheney, and how he came back and got involved in the Orangeburg massacre. And I talk about the fact that he actually, you know, Lincoln said gave the last full measure of devotion, and my father was not that level, but very close. You know, he was shot February 8th, 1968, in what the history books call the Orangeburg Massacre. You know, he was wounded, he was arrested, he went to prison, he was put on death row. I can't see all the young people, so I'm gonna talk to Tyrone for a second. But Tyrone, just imagine that you are, and Jared, I see Jared, I'm gonna talk to Paul too. Imagine that you are arrested unjustly. You go to court, your bond is denied. But because you're fighting for what you believe in, they don't put you in normal circulation, they house you on death row. That's the story of my father. They literally housed him on death row until he got a bond of $50,000 in 1968, which is a whole hell of a lot of money. And then you go through this process, you go through this system. And by the way, the criminal justice system works perfectly. For anybody who's under any illusion, I want you all to know that the criminal justice system works absolutely perfectly. Anybody who tells you that the criminal justice system is broken is lying. The criminal justice system ain't built for us, right? Okay, so just so you know, it's not built for us. It works absolutely the way that it was designed to work. But you go through this system, and then you have these young people. You have My father, for example, who all the officers who fired shots into the group of students, they killed 3 students. They wounded another 28. My father was actually arrested, tried. He went to jail for rioting. He became the first and only one-man rioter in the history of this country. And I tell this story because I want you to know that the blood of my family literally runs through the soil of this great country, but there's so many people like him. There's the Medgar Evers, there's the Jimmy Lee Jacksons, there's the Emmett Tills, there's the Henry Smiths, the Samuel Hammonds, the Delano Middletons, even until you fast forward. And again, I just go back to my grandmother's old saying of, you can't fall off the floor. And the reason that we're here together tonight, the reason that we have to applaud the work of someone like Joanne Dunn, the reason that we have to say, Jan Fisher, thank you for reaching out and reaching up. The reason that we have to understand that Lewis is not tomorrow, Lewis is right now. Lewis is not the future. Like, bro, there ain't nothing about you that says tomorrow. I need you today. And the reason that we need you today is because we all have to do this together. Every ounce of change, every single ounce of change we've had in this country has been because of young people. So don't ever forget that. And a lot of times we just have to get out the way and listen to the stories that they're telling us. We have to stop talking at them. Sometimes we even have to stop talking to them. And sometimes we just need to sit back and allow them to tell us the world as they see it. For many of us above a certain age, I will tell you that next Tuesday brings us great angst and anxiety, regardless of who you support. Next Tuesday brings us so much angst and anxiety, but you know what? There's a large cross-section of this country, particularly young people, particularly Black and brown young people, who feel as if the world ain't gonna change no matter what happens next Tuesday, that their plight ain't gonna be heard no matter what happens on Tuesday. Here we are from what we believe is the most consequential election in our lifetime, but 5 days from now, there is a large group of people who still will feel like this country does not give a damn about them. So the question is, the rest of us who are not them, what are we going to do? How are we going to lift them up? How are we going to support them? How are we going to show them that we care? How are we going to listen to them? How are we going to empower them? So our challenge is one that is vast. Our challenge is one that goes beyond any ballot box on Tuesday. By all means, please go vote. But our challenge just gets started at that point. Because for far too long, we've ignored these leaders of today. For far too long, we've ignored Lewis. And the reason that I'm here today is because people like Joanne, people like Jan, people like Tracy care about the fact that our future is now. The question is, how are we going to go out and practice addition and multiplication, not subtraction and division? How are we going to go out and leave from here and expand our networks? How are we going to go out and be examples? The last story that I'll tell you is one of the most amazing things I can remember from the 44th president of the United States is a young man named Jacob Philadelphia. So how many of you all know who Jacob Philadelphia is? If you know Jacob, raise your hand. Anybody know Jacob? So down south, we have this saying, it's called casket sharp. Now, most of y'all city folks, so y'all don't know what casket sharp means. So I'm gonna explain it to you. But casket sharp is the best you're gonna ever look. Okay, so on your final day, you need to tell whoever is in charge of your makeup and your hair. Like my grandmother would always tell us to always, this is more information, this is TMI, but we gotta always change our underwear because you don't know what's gonna happen. That's what my grandma she would always say, change your underwear, Lewis, every day, because you don't know what's gonna happen. That's what my grandma would say. But you gotta be casket sharp on your last day, which means that that's the best you're gonna look. Y'all remember how how we had all them pink in Detroit, you had all them pink Cadillacs laid out front, right? Y'all remember that? But Jacob Philadelphia was what we call casket sharp. He had on his white shirt, no tie. He had on these black slacks, and he had his shoes, black shoes that was spit shined. Spit, that means that he was fresh. Jacob Philadelphia was 4 years old. And Jacob got an opportunity because his mom and dad, they used to work in the Secret Service. They got an opportunity to protect the first family. And so Jacob got an opportunity when his parents retired to go into the White House. And so Jacob, bad man, 4 years old, walked into the White House. He sauntered, because when you swagged out, you saunter. You don't walk nowhere. You just kind of saunter in. So he sauntered in, and he got an opportunity to ask the President of the United States one question. And I already know Dr. Morton was going to ask him something philosophical that don't nobody want to answer. He's going to ask him a tough question, don't nobody want to answer, about labor, trade policy, what you going to do about niggas. No, I get it, right? You know what Jacob asked him? Jacob asked Barack Obama one question. He said, does your hair feel like mine? And Barack Obama leaned over. Because Barack Obama is savvy too now. He might be from Hawaii and Kansas, but the boy got some good sense. So Barack Obama leaned over, and Jacob Philadelphia at 4 years old reached up and touched his hair and realized that his hair felt like mine. And I would always tell people that was the most powerful, second most powerful image to ever come out of that White House. The most powerful image, of course, was Barack Obama in the Situation Room. But this was the second most powerful image. And the reason why is because there is no reason why Louis Elmore can't be president of the United States. There's no reason why everybody that we are here to support and lift up cannot be leader of the free world. You know why? Because their hair feels like mine. And that's what we have to do. Well, Jared, you ain't got no hair, but we can go out and make sure that we are examples. We can go out and make sure that we're showing these leaders of today that they can change the world. So with that, Joanne, Tracy, Jan, let's ask a few questions and let's have a little fun tonight.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Yes, a round of applause. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I see you, Margie. Thank you. Margie couldn't even contain herself. She was like, I'm all in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. While we have you right now, because we know once you leave us, you got to get back to work and continue speaking truth to power. So first of all, thank you for that. We've got Westchester's finest, our best, our brightest. We've got Tyrone. We've got our young people. Louis, questions. Right now, we've got Bakari. And you already know he has taught us how to dream with our eyes wide open. So questions, comments. While you might be going in the chat, I'm just going to say, I just see all this love. Louis, everybody's talking about that $1 million smile, talking about how much they are, excited to be here. And thank you so much. And actually just really appreciating what you said. Thank you, Bakari. That's all I keep seeing is thank you, Bakari. And to see this is worth it all. Absolutely. To see this is worth it all, Margie. I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Beyond amazing and inspirational, Monet Hamilton, I agree. Absolutely. Oh, wait a second. Taryn Duffy says, Bakari, what inspires you to get off the floor? It's sometimes hard to find that motivation. So what inspires you? Thank you, Taryn.
Well, I mean, I think that it's, for far too long, we've been telling young folk about the past, right? Like there's so many people who died for this, right? There's so many people who, and I come from that legacy, so I know those names, Uncle Julian, Uncle Marion, Kathleen Cleaver, all of those people, right? But there has to be a promise about tomorrow. We have to reimagine what tomorrow looks like. And for me, my twins get me up often because my twins are 22 months old. They don't deserve to live in the country that we live in today. And there's just so much work to be done. And so even more specifically, I'm reminded that we came in this country 401 years ago. That's a long time, 401 years ago. And we're stripped of absolutely everything but our hope and our faith. And I refuse to let anybody take away my hopefulness and my faithfulness. And so while we may make mistakes along the way, I'm someone who believes in tomorrow. I dare not go down this king pathway. I always despise this, but you do know, and this is pretty rhetorical, but like the I Have a Dream speech, it wasn't unique, right? Like that wasn't his first time giving it. Like the I Have a Dream speech is not a very unique speech at all. In fact, and I'm not trying to grade the speech. People like it. They love it. But I will tell you that he had given that speech a few weeks earlier in Detroit in a labor union hall. And this is what's crazy. He was giving the same speech, Tracy, the same speech at the March on Washington. And he realized, and this is what's amazing, like while we all have to be able to adjust, he realized that the speech hadn't taken the audience where it needed to be. Like a great orator, you know, when you're giving a speech and you want the audience to feel, it's hard on a Zoom call. I don't know how Dr. King would do on a Zoom call, but it's hard on a Zoom call. But he didn't take the audience where it needed to be. And so he was speaking, giving that speech. And then, as always, a woman behind him by the name of Mahalia Jackson, the Mahalia Jackson, shouted out to him while he was on stage giving, in the middle of a speech that he had given in Detroit a few weeks ago, shouted out to him, "King, tell him about that dream you had." And Dr. King went into this riff of, "I have a dream that one day we shall." And it was legendary from there forward. And so the reason I tell that story is because there's just sometimes you need that little push. And sometimes you kind of have to dig a little deeper. And sometimes, as the kids say now, you got to read the room, right? You got to read the room. And you just got to make sure. My goal every single day is to touch one person. And King, with those 250,000 people out there, he realized he ain't touching their person. So he had to dig a little deeper. And Mahalia Jackson was there to help him dig a little deeper. And he pushed that much more.
Okay, we got a few more questions, and I just want to start. I'm going to try to get to all of them from Andre. Andre says, Mr. Sellers, can you expound on the importance of not only voting, but the importance of voting for ourselves and for our younger generation, and more importantly, for our unborn generation?
Yeah, I mean, voting is of the utmost importance, and people have to understand that it's more than just voting for president of the United States. Like if you want that criminal justice reform if you want a ban on chokeholds, right? Then that comes from the sheriff. That comes from county council, city council. If you want more after school programs and summer jobs programs like Marion Barry had in Washington, D.C., that comes from your city council, right? So you gotta understand that everything is on the ballot. It's not just, I don't care if you don't like neither one of the candidates running for president. There's so much more on the ballot that we have to pay attention to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then I just want to circle back. Here's a question to ask about your views on the race. Let me try to pull this up. Yes, Akil, Bakari, you've come so far in your career. Let me circle back. Any regrets that you can share with us right now?
No, I don't live with regrets.
Gotcha. Right.
You know,
right.
I regret. Let me just say something. Any young person that's listening to me at the shelter, any person who like we don't have regrets. Nah, we did that. We learned from that, right? We ain't gonna do the same thing twice, right? We learn from that though, but we don't. God sent us through these. He sent us through these trials and tribulations to come out better than. And the crazy part about everybody who wants to look down on us for having these moments of these downward moments, you know, I refuse to be judged. You know, I'm somebody who believes that, you know, in the book of James, it teaches us that faith without works is dead. And there are a lot of people who want to have the faith, but don't want to do nothing about it, right? They don't want to be out here. They want to just go to church on Sundays or wherever they may be. And they don't want to do the work on Monday through Saturday. And so we are working on ourselves every day. And the crazy thing about young people who make mistakes, we don't need you to tell us about the mistakes we made. Like we know that. We know how many people we let down. Like we know how embarrassed we should be. There's nothing that you can talk at us about. But what you can do is ensure that we have an opportunity to get up. What you can do is ensure that we have the space to go out. And I'm not saying give us 3, 4, 5, 6 chances. Everybody don't need 3, 4, 5, 6 chances. I mean, but what I am saying is there are good people every single day who make mistakes. And all I wish is that we got the benefit of the doubt like everybody else.
And just listening to you and thinking about your book, Joan wants to know, is there an author that inspired you or continues to inspire you?
That's a dangerous question because the authors that inspire me, I can't write like. I mean,
and who might that be?
James Baldwin is brilliant, but Bakari Sellers ain't James Baldwin. Listen, my jump shot, I am a 4-time, I haven't had to think about it, 4-time Lifetime Fitness All-Star, MVP of the league 2 years. I'm a monster, but I'm not LeBron James. Like, there's no question. I still can hoop. I would give anybody on this Zoom call 30 points, but I'm not LeBron James. I will tell you that to say that although I'm an author, I'm not James Baldwin. And James Baldwin is, to be a Black gay man during that time and speak that truth to power. I mean, James Baldwin was everything. I mean, he went all around the world. I mean, James was a man. I mean, I wish he was here to see and just talk about things like, I wish James Baldwin was able to dissect things like toxic masculinity. I wish he was here to talk about sexism and misogyny. I wish he was able to dissect, Trumpism. I wish James Baldwin was able to hear about Black folk who became comfortable. James was hundreds of years before his time. He was so talented. He's someone who I tell everyone to start there, elaborate with. Jornell Hurston is also equally in the same category as somebody beyond for being her brilliance. Barry Cohn is one of the most fascinating books you'll ever read in your life. Both of them together are talents beyond your wildest imaginations.
Thank you for that. I agree with you. I concur. Now, here's the question. Should Biden win, should Vice President Biden win, would you want a seat, an appointment in the administration? Have you thought about that?
Oh, I mean, everybody thinks about everything, but the answer is no. I got a really young family, and I'm, on CNN and able to give this, speak my truth to power. And, I'm quite comfortable. I speak to Senator Harris every other day. I'm quite comfortable in where I am and trying to push the agenda for people of color forward. If that ever requires me to do something else, I'll do it.
Got you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yes, this is epic. Absolutely. I'm seeing comments about this being epic. Any more questions? Hopefully I got to everybody. I'm trying to see if there's another question. Let me see. I think we are good. We are almost out of time. Akil, yes, the Childs family is delighted to be here, and thank you for being here this evening. And it's just a lot of love in the chat. So on that note, I'm going to check one more time and see if I can get one last question out. And oh yeah, I got to your question, Glenetta. Yes, I did. I got to it. I got to your, Robbie asked a question. Now, Robbie, we might need some clarity on this one. Robbie wants to know, was your dad arrested because he was investigating the death of the young man that went from New York to register to vote? I think you need to for some clarity to help Robbie on that.
My dad was arrested in the Orangeburg massacre. My dad wasn't arrested in those young men, Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney. It's a good story. When you go down the rabbit hole, I challenge all of you all to Google that tonight. That were found in Philadelphia, Mississippi. Those young men paid the ultimate sacrifice. My dad was arrested February 8th of 68. My dad ended up going to prison in 72, 73. You know, the story is not unlike the story of many Black men during that time. And so we have so many shoulders to stand upon, and I stand upon his.
And you stand upon his, and we thank you so very much. I wish we had more time with you, but the time is escaping, and I know Joanne has some work to do. She's got to get to the real work while we're here, because we definitely need to raise money. We need to raise funds so she can continue to do the work of the shelter and continue to make sure that our young men are taken care of. Bakari, we thank you so very much. As always, we need you on CNN. Absolutely. We need you on CNN. We need you on every network, speaking truth to power every night.
I hope my goal is that everyone on here who has the ability to give does give and give. You know, it's easy to give to a campaign because you just kind of want to see or get some instant gratification on what happens on election day. I hope you give to people who are planting the seeds, who are going to ensure that our community that we want to see, no matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Black, or white, who want to see a future that changes for the better. And that's what we're doing. We're literally planting seeds to ensure that we have a country that ensures that people have access to words like love, truth, justice, peace, not just life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but all those not so tangible ideals. And so, Joanne, thank you for having me. And I love you all. And I'm here whenever you need me.
Thank you so much, Bakari.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think Bakari said so much that we can take from tonight. And I'm just excited that you all are here with us. Bakari, I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for speaking truth to power, but also dropping little nuggets for us tonight in regards to things that we can take away. We need to celebrate our young men. We need to celebrate our young Black men of color. And I tell my young men here every day, we are far better than the worst things that we've ever done. And so it's not about us getting knocked down, but it's about how we get back up. And so I appreciate you, Bakari, for really saying that and really charging everyone to think about that we're all on the floor. It's about how we get up and how we get up as a system, a collective unit. And so I truly, truly appreciate you. You don't know what you have done for us here at the shelter in regards to just your charge to want to be involved and champion the mission of the organization and to really help young men really realize their full potential and that they are the future. They're not the future. They're the leaders of today. And so I truly, truly appreciate you and all you've done. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And Lewis, you are the reason why we are here tonight. You, along with the other young men, are the driving force of why this work matters. So here's the deal, everyone. You ready for this? At the youth shelter, we believe our work here is not transactional, but transformation. We provide a vital service that gives young men a second chance. Who of you watching hasn't made a mistake or wished for a second chance to make amends? But in order for us to continue to provide this vital service and a second chance, like Tracy said, we need funding. And that's where you come in. You'll see a link in the chat feature on where you can donate, or you can go to our website at www.ysow.org. While raising funds is always, and I mean always, at the top of our radar, tonight is really more about awareness. awareness of an organization that has been around for 40 years, providing vital services to restore and reshape the lives of young people, particularly justice-involved youth. You might think I'm crazy. Our board might say I'm nuts for saying this, but we know external forces place our young people in untenable situations. And as I said earlier in the evening, I am excited about how the youth shelter can continue to play a role in shaping solutions for these challenges. We must decide who we are as a society and what our responsibilities are to our young people. Do we want the youth shelter to be around for another 40 years? Or are we bold enough to decide that our real goal is to make the need for programs like the youth shelter obsolete? Because as a society, we can't continue to arrest our way to a better future. As we rethink our criminal justice system and policing in our country, we must invest in families. We must invest in our children and our youth. And we must invest in community alternatives that are the cornerstones to transforming the lives of individuals, but also neighborhoods as a whole. A huge thank you tonight goes out to all of you who are here with us. A huge thank you to our board of directors, Bakari Sellers, Dr. Tracy Alexander, who was our moderator. A huge thank you to Louis, who is the reason why we do this work. He is also known as our resident chef here. Thank you for sharing your story and your journey. And to all of you who are in attendance tonight, thank you. And to all of you who have been in the back scenes, Joan, Rose, Tim, all of you, Gabby, who have made tonight possible, thank you. While I'm still a bag of nuts and emotion and nerves, I'm so excited about the future of the youth shelter. I'm so excited that there's beauty on the horizon for our young men here. And I'm going to be the lead champion for them. And so I thank you, thank you, thank you. And I could not leave tonight without thanking my staff. My staff give their all day in and day out to make sure that we make a positive impact and to make sure that we transform the lives of these young men who are in our care. I hope you all enjoyed our first virtual event. I hope that we made you proud. And I hope that after tonight, you will be charged to get involved at the youth shelter, to get involved in your local school votes, your local board, your local police, criminal justice reform, whatever it is, just get involved, get off the floor. And so I thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you all enjoyed our evening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. So thank you for coming.